Do you confuse sustainability with stagnation? Do you at times feel like, as a leader and as a business owner, you can confuse the idea about creating a sustainable leadership model, and you inevitably tell yourself that's a stagnant leadership model? You tell yourself that's flat. You tell yourself that it's boring. You tell yourself you read all the books and you listen to the podcast, and you have been told by all the gurus that sustainability is for the weak. Friend, I am here to challenge you today that if your life is not sustainable and your business is not sustainable, your leadership style is not going to be sustainable either. Welcome to the Rocky Garza Show, where we explore the collision of a deeply meaningful life and a wildly impactful career. I'm your host, Rocky Garza, and with over a decade of experience as a coach, consultant, and keynote speaker to many Fortune 500 companies, I'm here to share personal stories and expert advice to help you gain clarity, build confidence, and discover that you too can build the life you actually want. Whether you're a high achiever looking for a more full life or a leader striving for professional success with purpose, this podcast was designed with you in mind. Welcome to the Rocky Garza Show. Today, I am really excited because we are talking about how to rebuild from burnout. How do we really craft this sustainable leadership model that allows us as both people leaders and business owners, depending on where you are on that spectrum, how do we rebuild back from burnout? We've grown our company. We've scaled our company. We've done all the things we think we're supposed to do. And what do we do now? Because we recognize what we're doing, we cannot do forever. I am really pumped and got a great story to share with you today. As always, if you haven't yet, make sure and go to rockygarza.com/beyond success. You can hear all about what it is that we're doing, where we're going, and what our next event is. We would love to have you at our next. All you got to do is check out rockygarza.com/beyond success, see what it is there, register for free, and we'd love to have you. I was on the phone earlier this week with the chief people officer from Zillow. We were doing a Zoom call just to get to know each other a little bit. Now, Zillow is a multi-billion-dollar company. They've got thousands of employees. They actually have implemented something that I believe today even still is fairly front-running on their end. I think they look at it as it's just a standard of practice, and they're even looking at how do they innovate even further. But they operate in what is called a cloud-based HQ, meaning that their staff can live anywhere that they want to live. They work 1% remote from home. They communicate via Slack and a bunch of other tools. However, they are a cloud-based HQ, meaning their executives live all over the U.S. Their team lives all over the U.S. Their staff live all over the U.S. And what I found fascinating about this, when Dan and I were talking, and I was asking him just a little bit more about Zillow and how they operate it, and I use them as an example because they are one of the few companies that I have worked with over the course of my career. Aspect does what they say that they do, and I've seen it lived out. Now there's a million great companies, and there's tons of great companies that I have worked with that have done parts and pieces, but Zillow seems to really be doing it. And so I asked him, I said, tell me, what has led to this? How do you do this? How do you have staff that seem to be dialed in and plugged in, and they work really hard during their time, and then at 4:35 when it's done, they're logged off, Slack shut down, and we say to go be with their family? And he looked at me and he said, because we do it. I said, I know you do it. I said, but what do you mean we do it? He said, no, we do it. As an executive team, we do it. And all of our direct reports and all of our VPs and senior directors, they do it. And he had this very interesting insight for me. He said, because we are a tech startup company, basically, he said our founders, this was actually their second company. They were all a part of launching Expedia. He said, because it's their second company and they launched the first one with having young families and young kids, and they did so such that the average startup mindset of we're going to put in 18 hours for 3 years for a big payout he said, we've already done that. And we know that's not sustainable. We know that's not what it is that we want. We want something different. And he said, so we started with something different. And although it's been ups and downs, and there's times you work more, you work less, he said, but what we've really understood is we want to be in a place where we don't have to rebuild from burnout. We never get there. And I said, what does that look like? And he said, I am constantly attempting to have our team. I want you to write this part down for yourself. He said, I am constantly looking for ways for us to hold the tension. He used the word all on his own, which I thought was amazing. He said, I'm always looking to hold the tension between scalability and sustainability. He said, because if we're not growing, what are we doing? But if it's not sustainable, it's going to go away. And he said, instead of having those two things be two things that are opposites, what if we had two things like that we got to hold in tension? And so my challenge and my encouragement for you is I want you to think through as a people leader on your team inside of an organization, or if you are running and owning an organization, you're an 8-9-figure CEO, listen to this and you're going, okay, what does this mean for me? I want you to ask yourself, are you crafting a sustainable leadership model? Now, look around at your friends. Look how many of your people and your peers burn out. Look how many of them are tired. Look how many of them get to a place and they realize this is not it. I can't live life like this. My marriage won't sustain it. My kids won't sustain it. My life won't sustain it. My heart won't sustain it. And I don't mean that like emotionally. I mean that physically. Like my heart will not continue to beat the way I need it to beat because I'm so tired and exhausted. As we look at each of these pieces, I want you to begin to think about how can you create new leadership practices so that you can avoid future burnout. Do you have a sustainable development model? Do you have a personal sustainable model? Is your life personally sustainable? Is the time you go to bed sustainable? Is the time you wake up sustainable? Is the time you exercise sustainable? Is the amount of tequila or whiskey you drink sustainable? Is the amount of cigars you smoke sustainable? Is the amount of effort you're putting in sustainable? Is the amount of hours you put in sustainable? Is the amount of effort and energy, the things that you are doing that you should not be doing, but you do anyway because you refuse to let go of control, is that sustainable? See, I think it's really important for us to note that we're not looking for balance. As a matter of fact, I personally deeply dislike the word balance because I think it creates a false narrative for what's possible. I don't think life was ever made or designed to be balanced. I don't think life was ever made or designed to be something that we were going to somehow create this perfect system of equal weight, whereas me half and half. I just don't think that's how it was made to be. I think life is meant to be lived in the tension. I think most of life is inside of a tension, not a tension, but like inside tension. There are constant things that are driving and pulling us. There's leadership responsibilities that are pulling us. There's self-care that is pulling us. There's relationships and partnerships and marriages that are pulling us. There is children that are pulling us and families and grandparents that are pulling us. And I want to tell you, I get it. I understand. I am with you. I've got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. I've been married for 15 years. I've got a business. My wife's got a business. I got another business with my grandparents. I help run the back end of that business with them. I'm helping begin to care for them, my parents, friends, family, in-laws, neighbors. I understand. Life is full. Life most days. And so is what you are building sustainable? I'm not attempting to tell you to not grow. I'm not telling you to slow your goals down. I'm not telling you, I'm saying, is your current leadership model sustainable? Is your current business model sustainable? Can you continue to endure how you have arrived where you are for the next 36 months? Or will you wake up in 24 and ask yourself, what have I done? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. I can ask you all day long, but the reality is until you are willing to, go metaphorical with me here, until you are willing to spend more time in the mirror and less time looking out the window, you will never reflect back what needs to change. You will always be chasing something that was never yours. Some of you right now, 8-9-figure CEOs, some of you people leaders, some of you VP of sales, you need to pause for 30 minutes today. You need to get away from the window. You need to come back to the mirror and you need to reflect and ask yourself, can I continue to do the things that I am doing the way that I am doing them? Because if you want to scale, the only reason things are ever scalable is because they're repeatable. So if what you're doing now isn't sustainable, it's not repeatable. It can't be done again and again. If it is so specific to you, then nobody else can come in and do it. So until what you are building is repeatable, it will never be scalable. And I believe that flows directly from you as an individual, you as a human being, your personal leadership sustainability, your personal sustainability. Like you can only be the hero for so long. You can only scoop in and rescue for so long. And so my challenge and encouragement to you is, how do you begin to recreate that sustainable model? How do you really take a step back and utilize the influence appraisal, a tool and a mechanism we have to really take an assessment to understand what is the price of your leadership? What is the price of your leadership and what is it costing you? And is it always your way or no way? Is there a potential different way? Have you taken the influence appraisal recently? Have you taken the EPS matrix? Have you taken some time to get together with us and look and go, where am I actually at and how do I look at it? And the 8 different points of success. Do I know where I stack up with myself? I know where you stack up with your Instagram gurus. I'm asking, do you know where you stack up with yourself? I don't care how terrible the marriages are of the 3 friend groups you have. I'm asking about yours. I'm not asking about Bill or John or Susie or Steve or whoever else out there is a parent you're comparing yourself to. I'm asking about the kind of parent that you are and the kind of parent that you want to become. Is that sustainable? Can you repeat it? Can you keep doing it? Or are you just measuring yourself against a standard that you would never even hold for you? So as you consider your leadership journey, as you consider how do you rebuild from burnout or craft a sustainable leadership model, I would encourage you, get in front of the mirror. Ask yourself if what you're doing can be sustained. Ask yourself in your business if what you're doing can be repeated. And if the answer is no, I would encourage you to pause, reflect, assess where you are, foster vulnerability and the willingness to address what hasn't been said and what needs to change. Invest in yourself. Figure out what needs to be different and who can you get in your corner to support you. Pursue purposeful goals. Pursue the thing that actually matters to you. That's not going to a conference to expound on your revenue growth. That's building a life you deeply believe in. That's finding the intersection of a deeply meaningful life and a wildly successful career. And if you think that intersection is going to match anybody else's and you're chasing theirs, you're going to end up building a house in a place you never belonged. Good luck out there, and let's keep going.